What if emotions, beliefs, and hell knows what else that you carry from your childhood is shaping everything that you're doing, your business, your decisions, your feelings, your choices, the way you do business? What if they affect you as those invisible forces that you're fighting without even understanding what you're fighting? What if resolving those things can change your business completely and shoot you from the place of grind to the place of freedom? And this is the From Grind to Grace podcast, the podcast for the alternative entrepreneur, the entrepreneur who is ready to flip the script and choose freedom first. When freedom is not a destination, when freedom is the way you do your business, when you stop grinding for freedom and create your business that feels like freedom in the process, success just tags along, and that's when you feel, I have made it. So the mission is to make this the new standard in the industry, the default for you, for your children, and for humanity. And so on today's episode, I am absolutely delighted to welcome my beautiful lady in red. Beautiful, sensitive, warm, Helen Kask. And also, she's almost my neighbor. She's my sister from the Baltics, which is so amazing. And Helen is a spiritual teacher and energy healer who came from being a complete atheist. We gotta talk about that. Atheist stuck in the grind of an excruciating IT field. Her self-healing journey led her to spiritual energy, healing, and absolutely shook her world in the best kind of ways. So, very welcome, Helen. I am absolutely excited to have you here for today's conversation. I know what we're going to be talking about, and it's going to be amazing. Hello.
Hello, so great to be here.
Yeah, so when I was reading your intro, the atheist piece, it's so interesting. And immediately, this question crossed my mind. Do you think, and maybe because of one book I'm reading right now, and it's about psychotherapy kind of thing. I think it's called Awakened Brain, the name of the book. And so the question in my head was, does being an atheist have anything to do with the way we do everything, like including running our business, including getting stuck in the grind and things like that?
It absolutely does. It actually absolutely does, because this has been actually one of my more recent discoveries. But like, when we think there is no higher power, then how we approach life is like we need to do it all on ourselves. To the point of like, you know, life feels like a fight because it's me against nature forces, basically. Only me. To the point of like it's just I even have to hold myself up to be able to stand, to be able to breathe, just to be able to do anything. It's just me on my own, and when with no one to help me. And if you do believe in a divine power, I'm not going to use the word God today because I know I've had it myself. We have a lot of actually Christian and religious trauma in our society because religion has warped the perception of God quite heavily, so this word gives a lot of people the ick. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say divine power. If you don't believe there is anything out there, then it does feel incredibly lonely, and like I have to fight through myself through everything. And yes, it does actually incredibly directly lead to grind in certain ways.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And you know what else I was thinking now that when you were talking? So in the Baltics, we also were part of the Soviet Union, and we had this crazy dynamics of the church dogma
Hmm.
combined with this social. I don't. I only thought about it right now, right? That is crazy. So obviously, like officially, there was no religion in the
Hmm.
Soviet Union, and yet we are so affected. And now we are affected by two completely different forces.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
What do you think about that?
we are kind of like psychologically, the Eastern Europe is in a very interesting state actually, and we do carry also generational trauma. So even if we didn't fully live through it ourselves, the fact that our parents did, we're still actually feeling it and the effects of it. That we are very very suppressed in certain ways in here, and like this fear of doing something wrong because maybe my neighbor will tell on me if I mess up, or if I think if I do
Mm.
something differently, God forbid, then because in the Soviet times it was this like you know tell on your neighbor kind of thing, and if someone was doing something differently, and if you're doing something religiously, because that was officially illegal, then you could be in Estonia you couldn't celebrate Christmas because somebody like you would have to close the
Yeah.
curtains if you had a Christmas tree because somebody could tell on you. So
Same, I do remember my granny, every time we sat around so Christmas Eve, and it still is more important than Christmas itself, I think, in Lithuania, because when people get together for this more
yeah,
like
same in
contemplative kind of dinner, whatever. So I do remember my granny used to draw the curtains every time, you know. So yeah, that is crazy. So, and very interesting, such a complex like context,
yes.
right? For us. And I still see the leftovers of that, lots of leftovers. And I want to touch on a little bit on your story because we learn from stories. And also I'm on this, I'm doing an experiment unofficially. I keep hearing stories of my guests and all over, people I work with, entrepreneurs, and even the details, the nuances are different. The storyline itself, like, it's so fascinating. And, I think, and, tell me if you're thinking the same. And it's because there is so much in common in both ways, in the physical world and beyond the physical world, right?
And there is also the aspect that we do very much draw into our lives people, with the same vibes, with the same experiences. So you do also attract, you know,
Mm,
people of the same story. But
true.
there are very many common themes, of course, going around right now all over the world.
Yeah.
That is affecting us.
Yeah, that is true. So tell me a little bit about where everything started. Tell the listener about where everything started, how you like, and how you ended up, because you were in IT like I was.
I was in IT for 10 years. I was
Right.
very grinding project manager. My last job was at I studied computer science. I was a math nerd actually in high school. I was a classic good girl story. I was a straight A student, and I did like math Olympiads, even at the state level and things like that. And even though my hobby, like my interests were always like all over the place, I did actually when I started like picking what to study in uni, I was like, oh, everything is so fascinating, and I was good at everything. It was really hard to choose for me. Making choices has been actually one of my biggest challenges during this healing journey, because it was really hard for me. And so I ended up, and this has been a theme later in life as well, I ended up making the choice that was most practical, super practical, because like it's harder to go from like the the sciences into the humanities than vice versa. Sorry, it is easier. Like if you start with the sciences, then it's easier to make the change to humanities, versus
Probably, yeah.
if you're in humanities, then swapping into the sciences, it's difficult. So I was like, okay, let's do sciences. I didn't want to lose my math. Like we actually had this process of like um, listing out things that were the least practical. Like I chose the field that was like the most like wouldn't essentially would shut the least doors, you know. And in a way, this has been kind of had to describe my decision process ever since, like just super practical, what is best for economically, what is best for the environment, because environment is one of my passion topics. What would my parents like, what would the society expect of me,
Mm-hmm.
what takes the least time, all this. Like I had this Excel table running in my head like always. And then, but what I never asked from myself ever in this thought making process is, what do I want? What do you, Helen? What do you want? And and when the thought finally occurred to myself to actually ask that, I didn't even know what to answer. Like I actually just recently had this friend over, and it was such a lovely, an old friend we hadn't seen in a bit. It was such a beautiful reflection. She was struggling a bit financially, and I was like, hey, I'll order takeaway, I'll buy you dinner, that's fine. And because she only wanted to come over for us just like tea. So when I offered that, she was like, no, 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 no need. I was like, no, I want to make you happy. I actually genuinely want to make you happy. Like, look at this list. Like, what do you want? And I could see that I'm stressing her out with this question. Actually, by me wanting to give her joy, she was stressed out because she just wanted to predict what I wanted. Because she was such a people pleaser, like I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
She was like so short circuited. Like, please don't ask me this. Like I could see that the only way she was answering that question was just trying to predict what would make me happy instead of her.
And there's probably a lot of shame as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And yeah, so that was me all throughout my 20s. I was like incredibly rational. I was like, yeah, a walking, spreadsheet of like solving problems everywhere I go. But never really feeling myself, or feeling where I am. And like it ended with, I actually had quite severe depression. I was going through all different therapy, because by the book I had everything right, so to say. I had
So
like,
what is the reason for this depression, do you think? And I'm asking partially because so a lot of what you're saying about people pleasing and trying to basically carry the whole world on my shoulders, on your shoulders, it's like it's me as well, right? And I only unpacked it, I'll tell you, to a very deep level only like a couple of weeks ago. And I'll tell you, I was in tears, you know. But the reason I'm asking is that I imagine that so many people are experiencing, well, I'm not saying, like in medical terms, depression for many people, but some level, some degree of some sort of very, very deep, like suffering.
yeah, the problem with the medical level description, quote unquote, is the problem that basically the how our medicine works is that you're only sick in a way, also mentally, if you're not unable to work. If you're still able to
Mm,
push through, if you're paying your taxes, then
Oh.
you're fine in a way. We only start giving these diagnoses, you know, essentially if you're like if you're not paying your dues to the society. And this is also what I felt in the in our regular psychology field, because yeah, I went to my psychiatrist, I got my pills, I did cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like the most common one. I did it for, yeah, actually one of my sessions like ended, the collaboration ended with this like very well renowned therapist. We had met almost every month for 5 years, and she was like, Helen, I don't think I can help you. I don't know what's wrong with you because you're doing everything right. You know, you seem to be doing everything right. But I was depressed.
So what are you supposed to do?
Exactly right. And I was told that, you know, I just need to accept that the depression is a part of my life. And that's it. Like, you will always be eating pills, and this is actually how it's going to be for you.
It's how you're born, like it's
Yeah,
in your
exactly.
blood or something,
Maybe,
right?
maybe she's born with it, like Maybelline. And what I noticed is that essentially, I'm not saying that, you know, the mainstream psychology is all rubbish, whatever. No, it does has it very much has a place, and it does help you to keep your head above water. You know, it didn't let me drown, but as long as you're not drowning, uh, you know, that's in a way,
Mhm.
oh, you can work, therefore it's fine. Like, whether you're
Right.
actually happy, you're actually thriving, that's out of the, you know, out of,
And so I'm thinking that a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. Oh, I can sit at my desk and I have the typey fingers, I can still type something. So I'm good,
yeah,
right? That's the
exactly.
what we have in this programming, right? So what do you think and I mean maybe not think, I'm sure you actually know, right? Because so it's gonna be as part of your story, I think, right? You started digging in it, right?
Yeah. So what happened was a family member gifted me 10 sessions with an energy healer, because she
Mhm.
didn't even know what they were doing. Actually, she just saw that, you know, this person herself was depressed before and had changed a lot, and was like, Helen, you've tried everything. And I did try everything. I tried even more alternative stuff during those times, and, you know, try her. And I went to the first session, very first session, and I was like, oh my God, this is some complete woo woo mambo jumbo. And let me get this straight. I was the person who was like, if somebody mentioned astrology or anything spiritual outside the
Mhm.
context of irony, I was like, this is complete bullcrap. I was the biggest skeptic you can believe. If somebody said male and female energies, I would have like puked at them and called them crazy. I'm not joking. I'm not even exaggerating.
Right.
I,
I
I,
believe you, yeah.
I was the textbook, like, science only. You know, everything needs to be proven, and everything else is just, you know, psychos trying to scam money out of you. Essentially, I was that person by the book. So I'm in my first session, and in the middle of the session, you know, she goes. I was feeling this sensation in my forehead, and she goes, "Oh, that's your third eye opening." I'm like, what the hell, woman, are you even talking about? This lady is crazy. And then she goes at some point, oh, and then your grandma is here. My grandma, who had died 10 years ago at that
Uh-huh.
point. Because all my grandparents were dead by that time, because three of them actually died before I was born, so I only had one grandma that I met. And that time she was 10 years dead. And she was like, oh yeah, your grandma is here in your energy, like let me kick her out. And I'm like, this, okay, thank you, family member, but like, you sent me to some backup. But since the 10 sessions was paid for already, and I was like, Helen, you're at rock bottom, you might as well give this a try, you know. Let's see what else this absolute psycho is gonna give you. Just, you know, some entertainment value. But what did happen after that first session was, up until then, every week, I've always had a very vivid dream life, by the way, but every week I had 2 or 3 times a week, a minimum, I had seen either my grandma or her farm. She lived in a farm, and we spent all my childhood summers there. I had seen those in my dreams every week. Like
Oh,
by the book, two, 3 times I would see her, or the farm. I was in the farm. And then after that one session, those dreams stopped.
right.
Those dreams of my grandma stopped. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is weird, but okay, maybe there is something here, but this is crazy. But then I completed 10 sessions, and noticed that I wasn't, it wasn't placebo effect, because I was not believing in it. I was actually like, this cannot work. What she's doing to me,
Right.
this cannot work. And I was kind of sitting, with my arms crossed and being like, okay, you can do your stuff, but like, I don't care. It's not gonna work. This is some bull crap. But after the 10 sessions, for the first time, I actually felt better. For the first time in
Mm,
my life, that
mm,
I felt the shift in me. And just for the record, what she was doing energy work. So the point of this is that we're not just our physical bodies, we are also our energy. We have our energy bodies, and our energy body, all our trauma, all our memories, live in our energy body, as well as our belief system, our subconscious
mm,
belief system, which I believe you talked in your last podcast extensively. That also lives on an energetic level. And so what we were doing, we were taking these negative beliefs in my energy. She was doing some voodoo stuff to to make it work, but essentially take one negative belief, take it out, put a positive one in. And how I would like describe this effect on someone else. And during my first years of this change, I would use this metaphor of like, when in normal therapy, you go to therapy and you're like, okay, I have this problem, it kind of stinks in my home. And then for years, like discussing, like trying to understand where it comes from, and then finally realized that, oh, it's because your cat did a turd in the corner. And then in regular therapy, what you do is like, then you understand the core reason. Okay, it's because there's a pile of shit in my in my corner. Then you're like, now let's learn to live to accept it.
mm.
Let's train yourself to accept it. Whereas with energy work, you actually take the pile and you throw it out the window.
You have it dissolved.
Yes, you actually clean it up. And yes, I mean,
Yes.
smell stays around for a bit, and stuff,
Yes.
but then it actually clears out. You actually go and you clear it out fully.
Yeah.
Get it,
And
you
that is
actually
essential, right?
get it out of your system. And yeah, so in a year, I came off my antidepressants, and actually only came off them when I was feeling so beyond good that I only did it not like at my first chance, but when I was like, I know I will never need these again. Like I was so absolutely certain that I will never, and I haven't need them again. Just for the record, that was 5 years ago. Uh, and then what for others would have been like, okay, you're healed, you don't need medicine anymore, there you go. For me, I was like, if I could change so little in 1 year of
Mhm.
dealing with my subconscious beliefs,
Mhm.
then how much more can I accomplish if I continue? Like,
Right.
yeah, I got this, like, you know like people do at gambling machines, like, how much else can I win? I kind of got this excitement, so I continued this journey. And then I had my friends. That wasn't my idea at first at all. Like, there was, and at the same time, you have to realize I had this huge internal fight within me. Like, I didn't even want to tell my friends what I'm doing, or what it is that's helping me, because this is such a taboo, at, at,
Right.
at least in Estonia, which is like one of the most atheist countries in the world. Like, people,
Really?
yeah, we officially take the record actually on this.
Okay.
So I was like not really telling anyone what I'm doing, because I was kind of like ashamed. I'm trapped in this voodoo stuff. Like,
Okay.
there was actually a really long fight within me, because
Mm.
the woman who was helping me, she was like, Helen, you should learn this yourself, and to help other people. And, and a part of me was like, no, 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 no. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna be a spiritual healer. Like, come on. I was like, a very rational PM. This is not my past. Are you kidding me? Like, how will I even tell anyone this? Like, what will they think of me? Like, this is not me.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I was like, okay, maybe I can help friends, you know, because I saw a lot of my friends around me struggling with the same thing. So I did end up like uh, going to that training. By now, I don't use her the method she taught me. I'm not using it anymore. I'm using my own thing. I have my own understanding of how energies work and how energy healing works. Because I was like, at some point, I was like, Helen, but isn't also this against like scientific principles? If you've been proven so many times that something works, even if it doesn't have, so to say, a scientific proof, there hasn't been a peer
Yeah,
reviewed study on it, but you have seen it on yourself, you have seen it on other people so many times. Like, why are you fighting it? Like, that is also weird and stupid to fight something that literally
right.
saved your life. So I was like, okay. So the joke that I say is like, Tupac said, I didn't choose the thug life chose me. In my case, it's like, I didn't choose the spiritual life chose me.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
I was
so,
fighting it so hard. That was the funny part.
so yeah, thank you for sharing your story. Well, I think it's becoming easier to talk about this kind
It
of
is,
stuff,
it is
right?
getting more mainstream, luckily now. But I did have a friend who actually disowned me for this.
Well,
Yeah, but it is what it is. No,
right.
no hard feelings.
So how much of that depression was caused by whatever you were carrying subconsciously, like even from your childhood, because I think that's where you specialize anyway, right? For a reason, right?
I would say everything.
Everything, right?
Entirely. My depression was entirely from my childhood, and yeah.
So did it have to do with any specific like memories, like, events that happened in your life, the meanings that you put assigned to those events?
I would say in a way the devil is in the details. You know, what we don't know. My main discovery was that we're, especially if you're a sensitive person, I'm a sensitive person, and I guess you attract a lot of sensitive person as well,
Yeah.
is that very little things can actually affect us in very profound ways. You know, for example, like, and this is the thing, like, here's again the comparison, that this is something that I had uncovered before in my previous therapy, but I couldn't like resolve it within it. I knew one of the reasons, but I couldn't like resolve it within myself before energy work, before actually releasing it from my system. So like in my case, like I was a straight A student, and that was considered as normal in my household.
Mhm.
When other kids, got these deals with their parents that, oh, if you don't have any C's, then you'll get a bicycle by the end of the year.
Mhm.
In my case, bringing home straight A's was the bottom line. That was the standard.
Right, and you can't do any differently. And it was similar for me as well, and also as part of the unpacking that I had 2 weeks ago, one of other things that, and I always knew about it, but it kind of reached me in a new way, that I was when I was 7 and I have twin sisters, and I was 7 and my parents would go to work in the morning and I would get up with my twin sisters. I was 7, they were 4. And I would get up with my twin sisters and I would get them ready,
Oh,
do their hair, take them to the kindergarten, and go to school for 9 as a
that's
7-year-old.
a lot of pressure. That's
It's like,
carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and that's not okay.
And all my life, I understood like it was very fascinating, like a fascinating memory once I remembered it. But for me, it meant like
But see, that's the thing.
I can do it. I was
Exactly.
responsible. I was strong. I was this. I never thought that it meant something much deeper than that.
Exactly. That's what I meant about like devils in the details. Like what we currently know as trauma is like, oh, somebody beat you up, somebody assaulted you sexually. We can get trauma from these things that actually look really normal. Like, was there a moment that my mom shouted at me for not getting straight A's? No, never.
Right.
It wasn't getting beaten by not
It
getting
was
straight A's.
self-imposed,
No,
more like,
exactly. It's just this on the background, and also it's trauma can also be what we don't receive.
right,
I wasn't receiving any credit, any praise for my straight A's.
right.
I got a snarky comment of like, oh,
Mm.
where did this bee sneak in, when it sometimes happened, or occasionally.
It sounds so similar to me. I was a very good student too. And I remember once I was, we had these boards like fame, I don't know, where they put pictures of the best students, and I was like, and I remember I was trying to talk about that with my parents at some point and say something, isn't that so cool? Are you not proud of me? And my dad like looked like, proud? Never say these words again.
Oh, yeah. Nothing.
So right. And but then we just like we don't attach any meaning, any specific meaning to these
Yes, but
things.
in the background, this is actually programming us. This is we like what happens from that. In my case, you can reflect if it happened in your case. I was like I have to what happened was that everything I accomplish is normal, and I was even if there was such a like cool thing that I did, then by the fact that I was accomplishing it, I lowered the state
Yes.
of the accomplishment because I could do it. Because if I can
Yes.
do it, therefore it's nothing, you know.
And so we
Because
underestimate.
my extraordinary achievements in childhood went unnoticed. So for in my brain, that equated, I had it in my belief system that if I do something, it's normal, it's insignificant. And so what ended up and how it manifested in my life was like, okay, but in case like if I really work really hard, like like bleeding from my nose kind of hard, then at least, that's the only time when I allowed myself to feel something about my accomplishment. Because at least I had given that effort. So
Yeah.
so I ended up just like constantly pushing myself more and more and more and more and more, just like to feel I have done something because I never received any praise.
Yes. Yes. And even if you do get praise, it just kind of passes by. You don't register that. They tell you good things, but somehow that doesn't do any good to you for
Yeah,
some reason. I remember I used to do lists of my achievements all the way from my childhood to now. And I used to read that list and I used to feel nothing.
exactly.
Like it's normal, like I'm just doing my work kind of thing.
It's like, oh, this is just how it is. Yeah.
So,
And this is I had the very same effect. Like when somebody would compliment me, I was like, oh, she must pity me. This can't this can't be even be true. They must be
mm,
like pitying me. If they're saying something really nice. It's like
yeah.
they just want to cheer me up, but they don't actually mean
So
it.
how did you, I kind of want to dive a little bit into that time when you started digging and understanding and finding how much you were affected and how that was affecting everything you were doing, and I want to, I'd like to relay that to potentially, to the entrepreneurs listening to this to start seeing if they haven't, how they they might be affected?
Um, it's it's a process. Let me see if a good tip comes to head to begin with.
So not necessarily even about specific tips, but like for you, what kind of started surfacing? Like like what we just shared. Like for me specifically, and I think I shared with you outside of this conversation, a lot of that stuff actually came from there, you know. It just like, but I recognize that so many people don't necessarily get that kind of experience, right? And so,
Yeah,
for many
very
people, it might be useful to even to understand maybe where they could start looking or what symptoms they should be aware of, or, something like that.
my first advice would be to actually slow the F down,
Ah, yes.
because if you don't have any space in your schedule, just like be with yourself ever, because that was me. I was just constantly running around, and later I realized that that was actually trauma avoidance. Like I knew I was broken inside, so I kept myself consistently busy, not to have any space to look at me,
It
because
was an escape, yes.
absolutely an escape. Like, to have so
Mm,
many work projects, to have many, like, so many social events. Like I was never not doing anything. Like for the first 30 years of my life, like starting from like age, I would say 15 to 30, I was just consistently always doing something, always, 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 like never stopping. And that is actually trauma avoidance. It's one. Some people go to drinking, some people go to excessive
mm,
sports. There's like, and like some are more healthy than others in a way, or society more healthy in others.
yeah.
In a way, like the damage is the same, like internally, like you are not facing the things you should be facing. If you are consistently overbooked, then you are escaping yourself, especially
Mm-hmm.
as a woman. Like it's a bit different from men and women. Like men actually do need to do things, but for women, we are more intuitive creatures, and we need downtime. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's so interesting. Just on Friday night, actually, I was sort of I started having my Friday night thing. I was on my own, and I think I turned on Netflix, started watching something, and it was like 8 p.m. and I just felt this rush to sort of to create a kind of sales page, sales letter, right? In Google Docs. And before I knew, and so I ran to the computer, I opened, I started writing, which like and nonstop, like, and before I know it is 3 pages. And when you said like slow the F down, I actually, the headline is something around along the lines of how to do this, how to make sales, whatever, quantum leap your business by relaxing. So I might as well change that to what you said, because it's like, and I'm so happy that you said that, because I think this is key. I think this is core,
it is
because not having space to even understand what the hell you are thinking
exactly.
is killing everything.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Like I never, and that's also, I never stopped to actually ask what I wanted, because I was also just constantly so busy. I was in this flow of like I had everything set up. This is how it's, I never questioned anything that was going on in the society.
Right, right.
I'm supposed to have this job. I'm supposed to meet friends, yada yada yada. And also we have this very deep ingrained notion of like our like resting or holidays is also supposed to be active. we're supposed to socialize the entire time. We're supposed to watch movies. We're also just supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do something always. And even though that, yes, it is relaxing and resting, and I'm not saying like go to a monastery and don't speak with anyone ever again.
Although why not, if that's what you
Although
want to
if
do.
that's what you want, absolutely go for it. But do have this downtime where you're actually, so yeah, by downtime I also don't mean just not working, but like consciously, but also not staring at Netflix for 8 hours, because that's also not going to help, because that is another way of escaping yourself.
And the coolest thing about relaxing and not working, when you actually get to the point where when you start understanding and hearing yourself, your not working time is actually your working time, becomes your working time. You start getting so many ideas. You can't wait to. I have notes, I carry multiple notebooks. I have this notebook, that notebook. I have a notebook in the living room. I use the recording app on my phone too, because I just sometimes these thoughts, these ideas keep coming and I can't even catch up with them properly. And
I know
then
those
all
thoughts.
you need to do is to just execute and implement with on a completely different level.
Absolutely. And if you don't have this space, then like this inspiration doesn't it can't come in, because you filled everything. There is no crack for it to start sinking into. So yes, you're very right. Yeah, it does benefit you back
Yeah,
tenfold.
and I think this is what people are not getting. I think people are thinking if I'm not sitting here typing or recording a video, I'm not doing anything. But that is not the way it is. When you dial into your intuition, especially women, your free time is your work time. And I was saying, rest is the new productivity or something like
Yeah,
that. You know,
very true.
so I would really this is one of my like main desires for women, especially, just slow the bleed out down, like just slow down, just stop.
Yeah. And what is very important to understand is on top of like childhood programming, we also have societal programming, and societal trauma. And what I see and what I've been dealing with in myself as well is like I had in my belief system this very, very core belief that my value directly equals the money I'm able to make, which is how our society currently treats us.
And I think this is so common.
It's so common that we don't even think about it. We don't.
Yeah.
That's another one about this unpacking these rules that we have. So our belief system is like the program we run on, and like what we create in this world. But one thing about unpacking these rules that was really hard for me at some point was like these things that are so common in the society that they feel like almost like gravity. It doesn't feel like my belief, but it feels like this is the law of nature. But some of the
Right,
things are actually not that.
right.
It's just the spell that we are under. And one of those things is, yeah, that my value equals how much money I'm able to make. And this is what just is currently pressing us to do these things. And another one is that we are in a patriarchal society. So basically, men have been more successful, and we, especially as women, we're like, oh, we need to do things the way men do. This is the definition of success. This is the definition of right. This is how we should be doing things.
And it's not like we consciously choose it. We
Absolutely not.
just don't know anything else.
Yeah, this
That's
is
the problem.
Yeah, but that's why you need to slow down and start thinking about these things. Because
And I
don't you
like,
never question.
right, and then add like some family dynamics and moms and so I have a daughter and I stayed at home with her. So I left IT. I left my job, my good job, so-called good job. I dropped it. Um, and then I became an entrepreneur. And obviously my main goal was freedom. I had found those ideas before. I was still in a job. But then what I really created for myself, the business, the motherhood, all the household, everything combined. And a few years later, I don't know who I am. So who the hell is running the business? And so the way they say, just do you. And it sounded so cool, comparing to the corporate job where you wear masks and stuff like that. Now you can be you. And I'm like, what the hell does that look like? I don't know. What are you talking about? Sounds great, but what is it?
Yeah. Who even am I? And
Yeah.
I didn't know either. I was an empty shell at the beginning.
And then goal setting. Okay, coach comes in. A coach comes in. Okay, let's do your goals. What's your dream life? I'm like, I don't know. Can I borrow yours? I don't know. Like,
You,
and
you,
then you sit with
you,
these
you,
goals
you-
that mean nothing to you.
and you've never even, yeah, you don't know how to ask these questions for yourself, and when you do, you're like, we don't even dare to want
Right.
certain things, because yeah,
And then you hear these things, oh, so in order to have what you want, you need to give value, you need to serve, you need to whatever. What does it look like? I don't know.
that's
And
the thing.
like
Like,
tips
all,
and tricks and methods and strategies and whatever. And then it dawns on me like, oh, it's the energy. That is the biggest value, that you can give, really.
yeah, but yeah, all these tips and tricks and everything, it doesn't work until you've unpacked your trauma, basically. Like,
Yep.
in my case, I also at some point I went to as I was starting my healing business, I went to a business coach, and then I realized, oh no, I still don't need a business coach. I still need a healer, like, because none of the strategies, nothing matters if you're in your belief system, in your energy, you have that I'm worthless. Like,
Right.
you can do everything correctly by the book, but if you have in your energy that I'm worthless,
Right.
that is pointless. And actually, yeah, let me talk about how like some of the common ways we pick up these things and how to. I'm just gonna share some like common traumas. Maybe that will also help people to start
Yeah, please.
unwinding.
Yeah.
There it is that our parents' generation. I'm not saying all parents, of course not, but it was very common that you know child's developmental info was not very widespread. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
they were practicing some pretty gruesome ways of parenting. Not because they were bad people, but that was just because what was common then. And
Yeah, and they had their own traumas as well.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's only very human. So like,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. A lot of people don't want to go here because they feel like, oh, but then I'm judging my parents and I'm saying they're bad people. No,
So true.
these two truths can exist in the same time. That they loved you, they tried their best, but the best wasn't enough for you for a healthy
Mhm.
development. These things can be true at the same time, and you're not an asshole for admitting it. And yeah, this is
Mhm.
actually like step one of admitting things is to be able to accept that maybe my parents did something wrong, because actually when we're born, like, our parents are our god. Like when we're so little, they're our entire world. And and it's and why it's so hard for us to accept that maybe they did something wrong is because, oh, but then the world is wrong. And it is very painful to admit that. And our childhood is our foundation. So and we all want to think that we had a happy childhood and that we're not from broken families, or so to say, because nobody of us wants to be broken. But we need to let that go, because otherwise, if you're not even allowing yourself to go into that level, if you're still afraid to admit that maybe my parents.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I think this is key. I think you said something very important. So I think the message is do not be afraid to dig in your childhood to with the idea thinking that somehow it's gonna create more conflict or blame towards your parents or something like that. It's probably the opposite. It's gonna help you understand them better,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly. And understand you better and
Yes.
understand your kids better.
As in the process, you will also understand, and also even the awareness of the fact that everyone has trauma.
Yeah,
You, your parents, and so on and so on, right?
yeah. There's one very common thing that I've seen in a lot of my clients and in myself is this thing that we used to treat children in a way that if they could speak already and walk already, then they're in a way we treated them like small adults already. That you're supposed to have the brain capacity to understand things. So
Mm,
what happens is that we get scolded for being told off on things that we're literally unable to do. Like I just recently saw this one
right.
wonderful. Uh, it was a speech therapist who said that actually children until the age of 3 are more or less, it varies of course, unable to comprehend the word no and not. They're actually not able to do it. So when you say don't do that or don't touch it or like a no, then if you say don't jump on the couch, what they hear is jump on the couch. You
Yes.
don't
And
actually
I think
comprehend
it's
it.
similar for adults, like as a marketer,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
absolutely.
we have to, like it's one of those principles. If you say no, but say this other word, so
Yeah,
what reaches subconsciousness is
yes.
that other
Yeah.
word.
And
Yeah.
as kids, they don't have the linguistics isn't that developed yet, so they literally don't understand. So if you like, for example, yeah, you were jumping on the couch or whatever, your parents screams don't do it, and then later they're like screaming at you like, how do you not understand me, like, are you an idiot, like I literally told you this.
Right.
That then you're getting, being mad at something you don't even understand what you did wrong, because in your head you thought you were listening to the instructions. And like you're get or cases where I don't know, a toddler drops something because they don't have the motoric skills yet. They
Yeah.
don't understand. So we might get like told off on or getting mad at things that we literally couldn't control, that was literally impossible for us.
Mhm.
And what that does to us is this, how do I explain this? Your It makes the world seem a very scary place, incredibly scary, like
Unsafe. Yeah.
unsafe, that I don't even understand what I'm doing, and like I might be causing an outburst
Right.
with
Right. Well, that
nothing.
is so true, right? You don't
And
even
then what?
understand.
And this a lot of this hyper controlling, which also we are facing, is because of the fact that we're essentially trying to panically prevent someone getting mad at us. But since we didn't even know what they're getting mad at, then we're like, we need to control every single detail, because
That is so true.
we're still terrified of being scolded at as adults. Like we can't let go of this control because we are like panicking that somebody's gonna drop in and be like, ah.
And here comes the fear of selling, the
Absolutely.
fear of rejection,
And
the
this
fear
business
of
thing,
showing up, creating
and why
content
this
from your
business
heart.
and why this business thing is so hard for good girls like us is because at school at least we had criteria. We know exactly what we had to do. We had to follow instructions. But in business, there's so much info. Nobody says what is right, and we want to do the right thing. And then we get to do this complete brain overload. Like, oh, but what is right? What is right? And then I won't do anything because I don't know what is right. And if I don't do what is right, then someone's gonna come and scream at me. We're still afraid of getting punished, like we were as toddlers, essentially. And this is, yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. We try to control everything.
Yeah, and this is
And
precisely because we were, as kids, we might have not been able, yeah, we weren't allowed to explore. We were put in this rigid rule set that we didn't even understand. We weren't explained this well enough. What
mm,
we're supposed to do.
and it's impossible to control everything. And the at some point, when I realized a while ago now about perfectionism, and the way perfectionists get judged.
Mhm.
In general, perfectionism is judged.
Yeah, yeah,
But then I realized that perfectionism is related to traumas, is related to insecurities, is related to not feeling safe.
yep,
Everything in your environment is a threat.
yep, 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 yep.
Uh,
And also this the same thing that we experienced, not getting praise enough. It's
mm,
perfectionism is like, if I do everything right, what we're still living out in our business and everything is our childhood secret yearnings is like, if I do everything right, everything correctly, maybe my parents will love me.
even though you don't think they don't love you
Yeah, even though you don't think,
intellectually,
yeah, but
subconscious
obviously, yes. It's like, I just want my mommy to say I'm a good girl.
is still looking for that approval that we didn't receive when we were growing subconsciously.
And
Oh my God.
this is such a big stopper for us, because and we also know that, but if we do something wrong, we will get punished. So we don't even, unless we know in advance for sure that this is the right thing to do, we don't even dare to do it. We don't
Mm,
allow ourselves to experiment, to try things out, because
mm.
fear is like so big at the same time. Yeah.
Right. Wow. 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 And and one of things that I like talking about, and you kind of hinted on that in terms of psychology, but also for entrepreneurs in terms of personal development and how the way I see it now is like we are basically trained to mask those things even more,
Yeah, absolutely.
like just force through these fears and these insecurities and just convince yourself you can do it and do it anyway, blah 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 blah. And so spirituality, and for somebody who links spirituality to religion, for me, like spirituality, this is what we are talking about. This is spirituality, actually knowing yourself beyond
That is
your
actually,
mind.
this is the first step in a way on a spiritual journey. To you first need to
Right.
understand yourself. Otherwise, what's the point of like understanding?
That's and but the beauty of it is that when you do unpack the thing underneath, the things that you are told to do, by conventional personal development, some of them just disappear.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the rejection disappears. What is it? Like I'm just doing my thing. If you don't agree with it, whatever. So, right. Okay. So how who do you help and how do you help people really?
Uh, so yeah, my bread and butter is other women like me, who are in the same, who have the same, like, yeah, anxiety, controlling, over worrying, and like this lack of joy, like feeling like the world is a chore rather than
Mm.
joy. Life is a chore, you know.
Whew.
Life is just a to-do list.
Mm.
This is who I work best with, but I have helped, energy work essentially can work on anyone and on any topic in a way. And if, as long as there is a very strong will to change, if, you know, a person still has the attitude of like, oh, I want someone to rescue me, then that's If
Right.
the right mindset to go into energy work, or it can still help, but not as fast. And
I mean, right, right. And I think, but then it needs to then start somewhere else. If that's the mindset, it also comes from some programming, conditioning, whatever, you
this is, by the
know.
way, just gonna jump into another childhood trauma. What happens to
Mm,
us as women as well is like when oh, this also somebody else needs to save me. This comes from someone else knows better than me, and this comes from when you're forced to eat when you don't want to eat, when you're forced to go to school when you're feeling sick, because this actually programs us like we don't know our body, we don't even understand ourselves. Like, and from a very young age, we're like somebody else knows better, knows me better than I do myself.
I know, right? But and so and I'm aware of this, right? What you just said. And it's so freaking tricky. In this society, what do you do? What do you do? You need to get that child out and into the school. You need to get them to the like, or you need to get them to do that bleeding homework because they're gonna then face other challenges,
Yeah, but
judgment, whatever, whatever, because our system is not designed to judge you or to evaluate your value based on the process, based on how you do things, right? It's based on your tangible achievements in terms of grades and all those kind of things, you know. It's just, and sometimes that alone, I think I need healing on that.
dude,
That alone can get,
the system
yeah.
is a grind. It is. You do feel like this tiny smushable bug underneath it, like with no chance. I mean, our school system, unfortunately, is trauma. Like,
So how to, okay, yeah, wow. I mean, even if you are homeschooling, I'm not, but like if someone is home, still results based, still achievements based, as
there
opposed to passion based, purpose based, process based. I don't know. Okay, so basically, if somebody needs, wants to basically unpack what is stopping them from, let's say, achieving results in their business or stepping out of this grind mode and into the freedom mode. Those kind of people you can help, right? Yeah. Yeah, and that's his beauty. And it's not like help, it's like temporary help. These things, like they stick because, right?
I've actually changed my personality in a way. I've had friends who I haven't seen in a bit, like compared to what I was, they don't even recognize me anymore.
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah.
And what is really important also to understand is that the internal shift is so much more important than the outer shift. If
Mm.
you're feeling unhappy with yourself and your life right now on a fundamental level, then even if you make that money, even if you get whatever many likes or views or clients, and even the money is not going to make you happy.
It's
Give it.
right. And that's why I'm adding this other thing, this other, and I'm also doing this other program and training to train myself on helping people even deeper, you know. And so I'm into, I call my system, you know, the way of selling, quantum marketing, you know, quantum offers. But also, even though I found these strategies before all these, you know, all this clicking, internal clicking, then I realized, oh, okay, so okay, strategies are cool, great, good, but now we need to prep the person for this,
Yes,
you,
absolutely.
you know, so they can quantum leap.
Yeah. If like I said, the same, like if you have these traumas from your childhood that I described, this feeling unworthy, feeling unloved, then like these quantum leaps can't happen. It's it's literally impossible because in their system it's not allowed for them
Mhm.
because I'm
Yeah.
unworthy. And
Yeah.
if you have in your belief system that I'm an unworthy person, then and you don't even know it consciously, you're like, of course not.
I
What
know,
are you talking
right?
about? Like,
That's what
oh,
unpacked for me. Like, oh, all this, even though oh, look at my achievements. Apparently, I didn't feel I was worthy. How crazy is that?
that was the case for me. God.
Oh my God. So anyway, so where can people find you?
My website, helenkask.com. I hope
Yeah.
you'll be in the.
I'm gonna put the links in the show notes anyway.
I'm on Facebook as Helen Maria Kask.
Mm-hmm.
Find me on my post, see if it resonates for you. On Instagram, just drop me. And on the webpage, there's also like an email and how to contact me. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay, cool.
Email line. And
Cool,
also,
cool.
yeah, I always have a call with my people beforehand who I tend to work with. It's completely free just to make sure that we're a good fit. So this is actually what I
Right.
because I don't have a buy now button because I want to make sure you can't buy a session with me without me talking to you first.
It's it's the way to do it, yeah. And so thank you so much for chatting with me on these most important topics. And I appreciate getting all this information and knowledge for people like you, the energy, the wisdom, the insights, the angles, so obviously I am doing this for myself as much as I'm doing this for my listeners. It's such a gift to be doing this actually. And this podcast is one of those things that it comes like automatically for me. When it clicked, it just took off and it's just going, you know. But before I let you go, I want to ask you, I have, three blitz questions. And
Okay.
if you listen to my podcast, you might know what they are. So first, I want to hear, and I hear all sorts of interesting answers. When you hear from grind to grace, what comes to your mind?
Mm, my first, I'm a very visual person, so in my head it was actually being. But now that you asked me, it was like being under this press, like this huge mechanical factory press being smushed small, and then slipping out from it, and then it was classic image, but like this blissful yoga pose.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. And the next question is, what change would you like to see in the world?
Oh, there's so many. Can I say a few? One is this is a deep internal desire is that I see that we cannot change the world, all the challenges that we're currently facing, the climate change, the political madness, everything, unless all of us start remembering that we are actually spiritual beings and there is
Mm,
more than science says. Is
mhm.
as long as we have forgotten that, then nothing, absolutely nothing can change. So this is also what I'm awakening in my clients.
Right.
And I do help them to tap into their intuition and to understand their spiritual self as well on for everything else. That is one big thing for women who are listening to us. A big change I want is give yourself the grace, the kindness that you're giving your best friend. We can be so kind to the people we love,
Mm,
but we cannot be kind to ourselves. Start
yeah.
thinking whenever you're angry at yourself, think if your best friend did this, would you be angry at them?
Right.
You wouldn't. You understand that they're human. Like start be as good to yourself as you are to others. And also if we have trauma, and most of us do, I'm not saying most, I mean, but a lot of us, still a lot of us, then the healing journey takes time. Like I've made that mistake many times myself. It's just like, oh, but why aren't I out there yet? Why I can't I achieve as much as everyone else? Like give yourself, yes, from grind to grace. Give yourself the grace to just be and reprogram yourself. Also, these shifts that we were talking about to when you understand things about your childhood, it takes time to actually let the gears like reshift within yourself,
Yeah.
and it needs this space. And you can't just be like, okay, I put a band-aid on, let's go on running. Like, no,
Yeah.
slow down
Yeah.
and be kind to yourself.
Yeah. Key. It is key. Yeah. And the last one, what impact would you like to make on the world?
That would be the same in a way.
I thought so. I
But I'm
thought,
teaching my clients to both
and that's what you're
understand
doing.
yeah, spiritual knowledge and the kindness. Like
That's
these
what
are
you're
actually
doing,
one of
girl.
the two key of my teachings.
And because, and I, because we know that everything is interconnected, guess what? It's happening every single moment, just because you are,
Yeah, that's a
that's
very
amazing.
said.
Okay. Thank you so much. Lovely conversation. So many insights, verbally and non-verbally, whatever, you know. And for the listener, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, please follow the podcast. Let's help this grow. Let's help this reach more and more people. And I'll talk to you next time.